tell me a little bit about your billet and the responsibilities as related to the operation?
Well, as the battalion commander, I'm in charge of the Marines Organic, the 1st Battalion, 6th Marines, as well as the many assets that came to support 1/6 during Operation Eastern Storm, which included elements from all throughout 2MEF and throughout RCT-8 and Task Force Leatherneck.
Okay. And can you tell me what is the overall mission and the purpose of Operation Eastern Storm?
The overall purpose was to bring stability up to the upper Sangin Valley, to Kajaki, so that the locals, the Afghan government, and coalition forces could have freedom of movement from Sangin all the way up to the Kajaki Dam. And you know, we just haven't had that before. The dam is a vital asset to the Afghan government, and of course having access to it for the future is going to be vitally important for long-term stability.
Now you talk about the importance. Can you tell me how exactly it will help the coalition forces and Afghan residents?
Well, I think when we leave Afghanistan, you know, as a national government, the dam is something that's clearly an important asset to the government, and they should control it. And up to this point, they haven't really been able to, because you haven't been able to get there because the roads were threatened by the Taliban. And in this particular area, you know, the Taliban particularly had control of the route. So for the Afghan government to have control of the dam, we need to get up here with our partners, the ANA and the AUP, clear the route, make sure that the people up here were stable, and that the locals could take charge of their own security, so that that road is secure long after we leave.
Now, how has your unit been involved exactly? I mean, what is your unit's responsibility in the operation?
Well, initially, you know, this, like I said, the area in Upper Sangin and through Kajaki, nobody had been there. The Americans had not really worked that area to any long-term extent. The AUP and Kajaki weren't able to police their own areas, and the ANA were unable to get up that route as well. So what 1/6 did, with a whole lot of assets from other elements as well coming to help, we gave that initial push and that initial security so that the ANA could come in, provide overwatch of local forces, and now we've bought the time and the space so that behind us we can have the AUP recruit into their ranks. We can get the local cops walking the beat. We can get the villages taking charge of their own security, and we'll stand shoulder to shoulder with the Afghan forces until they're ready to step up on their own 2 feet up here, and then we'll back off, because having Americans within your villages isn't a natural thing for an Afghan village, and we're more than happy to do that. And we've already met a lot of friends. It'll be hard to leave, but we're going to feel pretty good knowing that this area will be safe for a long time.
What sort of resistance from insurgents have you seen during the operation?
Yeah, it was, I think the enemy anticipated some of the things that he may have seen before, and clearly there were times when we would come in for a few days to do operations that his coalition forces would come in for a few days and then leave, and I think he anticipated more of the same. The difference this time was that I had an entire infantry battalion heavily supported with a well-planned operation, with Afghan partners coming in to help us as well. And frankly, it just gave him, the way that we approached it with the deliberate planning, it gave him too much to look at. There were elements on literally every side as he looked. He was very uncomfortable with the approach that we took to it, and he realized he had very few moments to escape and kind of get out of here, and it was frankly that quick. He came at us with everything at first. The first week, both before we started the operation, we had some things going on, and then for the first few days of the operation, when we came in via heliborne assault, You know, he came at us hard with mortars and machine guns and all the things that he had to bear. But then he quickly realized that we weren't leaving. And before he could get any kind of resupply out here in order to continue operations, like I said before, we had Marines literally in his back door. And anywhere he went, he was faced with either Marines or Afghan forces, and he realized, well, I better get out of here while I can. So what we have now in the area are we have some local youths. There was a real problem with some younger folks in the community. When you don't have schools, when you know, you don't have a lot to look forward to. As a young man, sometimes you look to the exciting things similar to America, and you make bad decisions getting involved in gangs and so forth. So right now we have some youth out there, and they're not shooting at us, but they have certain skills with IEDs. They have, you know, it gives them a sense of power, a sense of adventure, and that sort of thing. So what we need to do now is channelize that energy towards something like being a part of a police force for their own village. Or turning them back to their families and incorporating them back into the communities the right way, getting them back in school if they're young enough, and educating them. And while we've bought this time and space and we have a secure environment, I think that's going to be our biggest challenge, is making sure that the young men of these villages are starting to realize what the real future is, and it's not the Taliban.
How do you feel your Marines have done throughout this operation?
I couldn't be prouder. I think in all my years in the Marine Corps, I've never been more humbled or more proud of the Marines and sailors of 1st Battalion, 6th Marines. We asked quite a bit of them during this operation under arduous conditions in a very austere environment, and you know, we had Marines literally living off the land and drinking out of wells and continuing to push into areas that I'm sure the enemy had no expectations we would push, because he realized our logistics were going to be too stretched. The truth was, I had Marines that just stepped off right into the green zone, into the most dangerous areas, and performed magnificently. And you know, for our Marines and families that made sacrifices, and you know, those are our heroes, and will remain our heroes forever. But I couldn't be prouder. I'm also very proud of the Afghan forces that stood side by side with us and made this happen so quickly and efficiently.
What response have you seen from the Afghan residents along the route?
Initially, the first few days, they were scared. They didn't understand, you know, what was going on, perhaps. But it only took a few days. Took a few times with a few sit-downs with chai and sunglasses, you know, the eye protection coming off and the helmet coming off, and understanding exactly what Americans are really about. Because before this, in this particular area, there wasn't a lot of interaction with Americans. Maybe a few shop owners that would travel to Kandahar and go through checkpoints kind of understood a little bit about Americans. So there's some apprehension at first. Now, when I travel out there in the streets, it's one of the more rewarding periods of my life to walk out there and talk to some of the locals that are starting to realize that this is the reality. After years of living under, having the thumb of the Taliban pressed upon them, they're starting to realize that this indeed is a secure environment, that they can go out at night, that they can tend to their fields, that there's nobody that's going to be taking their money, taking goods out of their shops, that they don't have to be threatened every day. And it's a unique experience for them. Freedom is a unique experience for them. So it's good to be a part of that, and it's good to be standing beside my Afghan partners and watching and kind of sharing in the joy that a lot of these locals are starting to experience.
Awesome. And I guess just to kind of top it all off, what is your overall assessment of the operation to this point? And if there's anything else you'd like to add?
Well, it's up to this point, it's been a phenomenal success. I think it exceeded all of our expectations. If anything, things went too quickly. we didn't expect to be into the phase where we are now so quickly. But it's good to be here. I mean, it's a good problem to have. The challenge now, like I said, is we've got a long road ahead of us, but it's making sure that these young men that are out there that were influenced by the Taliban, that they realize that this is the long term. The long term is not that the Taliban comes back and that they've got some kind of longevity by being a part of that organization. That their future is with their families, their future is being educated, their future is having a stable job, or as we would like to see, some of them really coming around and protecting their villages, being a part of the security solution. So that is our challenge. And then, of course, getting displaced families back into their homes. We've already seen a mass rush back into Kajaki, and every day you see more. Cars loaded on top with belongings coming back to homes they haven't seen in a few years. So those are our challenges, and the key now is making sure that while we've bought this time and space, that we're exploiting every possible moment to make sure that the people now understand they can partake in their own security, that they have the strength to be a part of it, and that they can get on with their daily lives as they knew normal to be before the Taliban. So as I tell them every day, when they come up and ask me things like, hey, can I go out at night, or can we celebrate a wedding, I tell them that when you wake up, the day should be as you expect it to be. And I think they're starting to realize that that's the truth.